Okay, this is a texture analysis section demonstrating how we have used the codes and conventions of a British social realism film. We'll be discussing the narrative, genre, camera, continuity, sound, mise-en-scène, typography, iconography, anchorage, and yeah, that's it. Okay, and how we conform to British social realism conventions. Okay. Well, I'll be talking about the first minute of our opening sequence, and Rian will be talking about the second minute. Here in this shot, as our actor is walking through the door, we have used continuity editing, and continuity editing is mainly used in British social realism film. It's mainly the only form of editing that's used in British social realism film, as you can't really have any CGI effects. And I think here we have conformed to the type of style of a British social realism film, and the flow of the continuity is quite good as well, we think. Here in this shot, the mise-en-scene, the production location, actors, the colours and the eras and all of that, they show quite well here. The As you can see, the colours here are quite grey and lifeless and colourless, and here we can see like black. Mainly that he's wearing black, the background is black, his chair, it kind of black is almost like a sinister colour, and it contrasts to the folders, which are kind of like the focal point, where it's kind of here we're kind of telling a bit of the narrative, how he has work building up, and I think in British social realism films the narrative is quite quickly established in the first part of the opening sequence, as you can tell what kind of themes occur here. As he's out working by himself, our themes come up of isolation and loneliness because he's by himself working, and as you can see here in the mise-en-scene, we're in the quite a modern era, because you can see he has an iPhone, he has a computer, so it's set quite in a modern era. And here we have kind of subverted from the British social realism film kind of themes, as it's not as gritty as some of the other British social realism films are, but we're trying to contrast and we're trying to show like a middle age, not middle age, like a middle class man who also struggles with the daily life and the mundane of everyday kind of life. Yeah. Here we kind of also established the narrative in this shot, as like you can one second. Part two of my bit, basically. Here at 29 seconds, straight away you can see the narrative of the film, and I think that's quite successful. Right here, yeah, because you can kind of see the narrative of how is building up his work and that stuff. The kind of themes come into it at just 29 seconds. We have also created anchorage here. Play into the right here, yeah. What am I saying? Yeah, we've created anchorage here with the folders building up using simple cross dissolves between the shots to show the build up of the work. We can see by the actor's facial expressions he is bored and lonely of his life. Conforming to British social realism films, showing the hardships that people go through. As for example, like the British social realism film Looking for Eric, it kind of coincides with the themes of how he's like kind of bored of life. He's a postman and he just doesn't really like his job anymore. He's just doing it to raise some money for his family, trying to get some food on the table. And here I think this kind of clashes with it as well, because like you can see, even though he's so successful, he's only really doing it for the money and just trying to live an everyday life. Okay. Here we have a sudden change in the beat of a sound as it starts to kind of give out kind of like a violent expression as the beat changes as soon as the title sequence come in. I think here the typography is a sort of an iconic sign. As the title squashes in, it kind of connotes the characters. He suffocated of his life, and later on we see his wife. She's suffocated of her life. He's bringing her down and pushing her to like a low level. We can see the daily hassles he has to go through. It's kind of representative of real life, as many people are suffocated in their jobs and don't really want to do the jobs they do. And I think this again is conventional with British social realism film, conforming to the themes and narrative as they show the mundane, boring realism of everyday life. Yeah, Rhiannon and I believe that this shot right here, it shows our actor walking down the road alone. It highlights the themes again of our isolation and loneliness, etc. Also, the color here, the mise en scene is kind of grey, and again, like it's kind of dull, and it kind of like he has no color left in his life. Kind of is lifeless almost. He has no joy, which films normally, like British social realism film, normally portray the boring and loneliness of everyday life. He doesn't really enjoy his life. The typography that's situated in the bottom left hand corner is quite plain and boring, and I think in independent British social films they kind of use this type of typography. It's not too fancy, it's not anything, but it kind of also denotes and connotes our kind of narrative and storyline, kind of really, as it's like kind of plain and boring, and as you can see by the colours in the background as well, it's plain and boring. So I think everything that we've done has kind of got a point towards it. Oh yeah, it's very defined, and like it's quite sharp as well. And I think sharp, it kind of represents his personality. Like he's kind of like not snaky, but
like look, when you look at him and you look at the thing, like
the typography.
Yeah, it goes.
Yeah, it kind of represents his personality a bit. Yeah. Okay, and right here, I know we've kind of used kind of a flashy car, and it kind of subverted from the conventions, because normally you see like people that are acting, or well, basically in British films, they don't really have nice cars. But what we're trying to do here is trying to subvert from the conventions a bit and trying to portray the middle class type. The fact that he actually has this car, it shows his authority, and the fact that he's actually worked up quite high, but despite that, he's still struggling with everyday life. It's kind of like a clash between two people, and the monotony of everyday life has led him to forget about all the nice stuff he actually has in life. As later on we see in the opening scene, he has a nice wife, but he rather chooses someone else over his nice wife. Yeah, okay, pause it when it's at 1 minute. Okay, basically, the sound here is very effective, as we received a lot of quotes in our feedback, audience feedback, saying that they like the music. As we have no dialogue throughout the whole of our opening sequence, we believe that our strong music really creates mystery and ambiguity, and this is quite an important part to British films, where the opening with any film actually, that the opening sequence has to create ambiguity and attract the audience. And I think looking at films such as This Is England, they have no dialogue, but they have like quite a strong sound in the background. And you know, like when something happens in This Is England, like I don't know, like an explosion happens, the beat of the music changes to the what's happening on the screen. And I think here in our film as well, we kind of do that as well. As he gets into the car, it kind of gets a bit more mysterious, the music, and as the build up of the music, we can see the tension rising in the British film. We think it's quite effective towards the audience, and it's quite an intense scene, as you can clearly see the theme of adultery, or kind of poverty really, as it's like he's so high class status and she's low. The two social classes clash here. As you can see, she's doing this, as prostitution is kind of the lowest form of job you can really get. It's not really a job, but yeah. Here we can show, due to like he's like quite well off, well not well off, but he's middle class and she's like quite low down. It shows, like again here in the British social realism film, they show quite messed up dysfunctional families, and I think here later on we're actually going to see he actually has a wife, so he has a family, so the themes of dysfunctional families are kind of coming in as well. And here also the lack of color, where she has a black coat on, she has fur. It kind of like in a quite a subtle way, not in quite a harsh way of a prostitute. We can just see that these kind of signs and symbols are associated with kind of sexuality or something like that. So I think these are kind of sub themes that come into our.
So at this part in our opening sequence, we show the theme of prostitution here. We keep the mystery of our prostitute by only showing her hair and a part of her body in this shot. We have her hair blown in the wind, and it helps add to the whole effect of the scene and what we're trying to show. We see our male character here commit adultery, and it's connoting a really serious topic here because we see this is a touchy subject, and it's something that occurs in today's world, and we try to show this in, again, as Zara said, a subtle way, but we don't want to make it so bold and out there that it looks fake, because when these things happen in real life, it's not done in such an oblivious way where people are like, oh my gosh, she's a prostitute, look what they're doing. It's done really subtly. So by the costumes our characters are in, we made the prostitute wear a short skirt and some boots and a black coat with fur, as Zara said. These are just small details that help give away what she is. The simple clothing and the strong actions here immediately show and give you the impression that she is a prostitute, and when we got our audience feedback, the audience picks up on this very well. So this shows that the simple movements and how we planned it, like it shows what she is. So we portray this character quite well. The way we planned the movement. Oh yeah, the movement that's done here is she just knocks on the window. So Zara was watching a Bollywood film and she saw this car scene which we was trying to do, but it was really similar to what we wanted. So we combined our ideas and the film's ideas, and we put it together and we created this car scene.
It's called a homage, where we take inspiration from another film.
So yeah, the lighting in this shot, as Zara said, is quite dull. So and it drowns all the colours. So it helps add to the mood of what we're trying to show. We turned the grayscale down to darken the shots, and it helps give a more serious and dreary effect, rather than bright and colourful and happy. There's no typography in this shot because we firstly decided that when we was placing it, there was no correct placing to put it, and secondly, we thought that if we put typography on this, it would take away from the shot, and people would kind of focus more towards the typography than what's actually going on. And because this is such a key point in our opening sequence, we want all the focus to be on this and none on the typography. The camera shots we used here was a range of long and mid shots. So we did this to show the type of car he was driving, because this is a key scene. It helps connote his wealth, and the fact that he's driving a Mercedes shows that he owns these things. Like, he's middle class, but he does have money. And yeah. Okay, so this part of sequence continues the narrative on showing him coming home from what he has previously been doing. So he's in the shot before, we saw him leaving the prostitute, and that was during the day, and this shows him driving back home during the night. So this shows how much time has passed and how he's just wasted the rest of his time away. This shot was taken from inside the car, and Zara was inside the car, and she was just, and this is kind of like a point of view shot because it's showing outside and what he's seeing. You see, this shot was taken from inside the car. It shows the roads, cars, and surrounding areas. It allows us to help develop the narrative more by being able to set up a location, and shows you more of the environment the characters live in. The settings show here help show the lifestyle he lives, a good middle class lifestyle, establishing it from the surroundings. Zara and I thought this would be a good opportunity to place a few graphics because it's an important shot, but it's not that important, and plus we have a lot of open space in this scene, so we thought it would be a good idea to place quite a few graphics on here. As you see, he's turning up into his house. It's quite a big house. It's got rooms on either side, and it shows that, you know, it just helps show his wealth and how much he has to offer. Okay, so the camera movement here that we were showing was a point of view shot, and then we see lots of shots cut in to establish his house sequence. We show the inside of the house, and we see his wife sitting there home waiting for him. So when we were filming this, we filmed outside Zara's house, inside my house. So these are two completely different spaces. The fact that no one picked up on it, we thought we made it look quite real. But using two different locations, like it could sometimes look a bit dodgy, but the fact that we use outside her house and inside my house, we link the two together and we edit it in such a way that it makes it look like it's just one household. So here the narrative shows we see his wife making a very thoughtful dinner for him, but as you can see, it looks like she's been waiting a long time, like just sitting there looking at the door, having a drink in her hand. The narrative in this part shows the isolated wife who fulfills all her duties of a good wife and putting up with her husband who's constantly cheating on her. We see the difference between the two female characters that are shown in our sequence between the prostitute and the wife. Um, as you can see here, um, the wife is dressed in very bright colours, white, and the prostitute was dressed in black colours. So this shows the good and evil within the two people. Yeah, purity. It's also helped to show the nature of her character, white being very gentle and innocent, and the black obviously being more evil. The two female characters show a really big contrast. So this short hair it appeals to more of a middle class audience, as we've said before. We have more freedom to shoot in places. We have more variety of shots because we can set up the shots to make it look a little bit more classy and more appealing to the eye. Because this is a very visual shot that we're seeing right here. This looks like the color scheme. Firstly, here when setting up the shot is the theme of red, which shows love in the room, which helps contrast with the plain white room, which we see later on. The red dining table matches the red curtains, and the use of candles also help add to the romantic effect. This is a very visual shot, and it helps set up a strong mood. The table lit dinner shows the effort being put in by our female character, and the placing of each prop helps tie the scene together, from the candles to the flowers to the food set out. The shot gives the impression that they are going to have a date, but after on, you see that the male character completely barges past her and goes upstairs to sleep straight away. The lighting in this shot is a mixture of dim and bright. The red tones in the scene help darken the scene, help darken the scene. But the cream and white floors and walls help brighten up the scene, so it gives a mixture. The camera movement here is pretty simple. Loads of long shots and mid shots help showing the environment. Again, the costume he comes in, he's in all black, so it contrasts with her when you see them together. And the typography, there's some typography here, but as you can see, it's really difficult to fit it in, but we needed a place to put it in, so we just tried to position it in the best place possible, not covering any key parts.
Yeah. Oh wait, and as well, like the colours. I think that's quite important because in British films, I think as they have an active audience, they think about every single little detail, and like they can think about how the colours like relate to the themes and stuff like that. So I think that's important for British.
You see a point of view shot here of her walking towards him. The expression on his face, on her face, sorry, she looks really scared, but she looks kind of angry at the same time because he's just stood her up. So we see continuity editing here, where he just walks past her, picks up the bottle, and goes upstairs. The bottle here helps portray the theme of alcohol, and emphasis is put on the bottle because it's why we use the continuity editing. The focus is put on it because it's what he picks up and carries upstairs. We show a range of jump cuts, as you're going to see as later on, as he walks up the stairs to firstly help save time, but also give the very social realism effect. And as we see a lot of typography here and so on. Straight to 145. It's not weird to think back and think we filmed this. It was funny. I look like a penguin. Okay, so this part of our opening sequence shows the climax. The music builds up and causes tension throughout our sequence, but the softer the music gets towards the end contrasts with the character's feelings finally showing. Her breaking down crying, the music slowly starts to fade, and the same goes for the character's emotions. Continuity was used here when entering the kitchen door and walking through. We see her then resort into alcohol to drown her sorrows because she literally has no other choice than what to do. We think this is a very stereotypical shot because it shows the woman in the kitchen throwing away the food that her husband doesn't even care that she's made. Loads of close-ups were used here to show the emotion of the characters Towards the end, we progress closer and closer to her face within 3 shots, gradually showing her breakdown.
Yeah, like shots or conventions of films, like the quite close-ups. We use a variety of shots, conventional.
Yeah, throughout our whole opening sequence, we've stuck to the correct camera language and shot types. We didn't want to do anything too fancy because although we are doing it to a middle class, we want to keep it within what you usually see. And if we try to change that, it takes away from British social realism, and we won't be creating that anymore.
Yep. So that's it.